Thank you very much. It's been a very impactful session so far. There's been so many questions. We'll try to maximize the time we have to take all of this in. But let me just quickly start with Mr. Ezebo. Prominent in your profile is the fact that you were able to spot opportunities. You started out as a graduate and then you went into apprenticeship. We'll still come back to that. But the fact that you were able to spot opportunities to start your small business, to move into your own shop, also the opportunity you were able to identify in terms of the Techno and the Infinix business, I would like you to please shed more light on that. How is it an inborn ability to be able to spot such opportunities, or what exactly can we learn from how you're able to do this?
Thank you very much. Entrepreneurship is all about your ability to identify opportunities. You can't say that you're an entrepreneur if you are not sensitive to opportunities. And so, like I said, the external factors are very intimidating, but sometimes opportunities pops up. And so we should be sensitive to such opportunities. So one of the opportunities I've seen and I took advantage of was the fact that people were having the problems of carrying 2, 3 phones. Even till today, people still carry 3 phones. All right? And so it was because of the problems associated with the network companies. The likes of MTN, the Airtel, the Econet, and all that. And so in some areas, you will find out that there's no MTN. Maybe you are in Lagos and you are from Nnewi, you will discover that when you go for Christmas, there's no MTN in Nnewi. All right, so there's need to have MTN for Lagos and Econet for Nnewi. So consumers were having that problem. And so people were carrying 2 phones, 3 phones. And so I just thought of doing something to solve that problem. So entrepreneurship is about looking at this situation and trying to solve problems. And when you solve problems for humanity, you also capture economic value for yourself. All right? So that was what I did. And I said, can there be something? Can there be a phone that will have dual SIM? And you know, in China, everything is possible. Please, produce a phone, write my grandmother's name. They will do it in 1 week. All right, so it was very, very normal. So the point is, I was able to identify the problem, but solving it was simple because there is a platform that could do that for me. And so it was very natural to take my problem to China and get it solved. So that was what I did. So naturally, as an entrepreneur, I learned entrepreneurship. I am not from the family of entrepreneurs. My mother, my dad, no entrepreneur in my family. All right, my plan was to go to school and work in oil company, which is normal. All right, work in one of these companies where you earn 6, 7 digit salary. You know, that was my dream. That was my dream because I grew up seeing my dad work in a company. Every morning he's dressed up, and then in the evening he's back. And so, Daddy, welcome. So I was used to that. And at the end of every month, he comes with a paycheck. And I remember every month we have a way of celebrating when Daddy receives his paycheck. All right, so it was not natural for me to become a businessman. But I think in my own case, it was more of something born out of necessity. All right, because I couldn't get the kind of job I wanted. It was just natural to do something on my own. And I thank God I took that leap of faith. And that actually, for me, was very courageous. So when I came into that industry or that sector or the business world, I began to learn. All right, from people who have done that before, people who have done businesses in the past. And so I have so many mentors that I looked up to, and that actually helped me.
Okay, thank you. We'll still come back to how you addressed the issue of disregarding your certificates and then taking the humble path of apprenticeship. I'll come back to that. Mr. Aladenusi, you emphasized reading, knowledge, diligence. In this day and age, these virtues are really scarce, and they're actually beginning to sound like old school. Perhaps because we also have situations where people have not had to be that diligent, and they have made it. Well, in terms of proportion, maybe a few. But really, how can we, first of all, is it old school to think that diligence, knowledge, reading, less of the social media distractions and all of that is what we really need to be ahead of the pack?
I think diligence is very important. It's biblical, and there is no successful person that you see that has not gone through that part. When Mr. Inamdi was giving his examples, or when Dr. Gloria gave her examples, you could see diligence and hard work. The problem we have in Nigeria is that people see others become, let me use that word in quotes, make it, and they use underhanded means, and so people are thinking, why go through that route when I can do whistleblowing and get 5% of $43 million?
That right out of my mouth, the whistleblowing thing. That's the in thing.
So right now, people are not thinking about their business again. They are looking for who to whistleblow. So looking for quick money. I think the part of integrity pays. Just like Mr. Anamdi said, integrity is very key. If you do not want to use underhanded means whereby you can have rest of mind, you can be fulfilled. All the people that use underhanded means, they are not happy. Get close to them. They are not happy. It will always catch up with them. If you want to follow the right path, then you still have to go the way of diligence. So I don't think it's old school.
Thank you. Okay, that has been emphasized again. Pastor Abraham, you retired as an audit partner in Ohod Dafinone several years ago. And I know that it's been, I think about 7 years now, you've been practicing as an entrepreneur. A lot of times, people desire to do stuff on their own, but they probably don't even know how to make that transition from being an employee to being an employer. What do you have to share on that?
Okay, thank you. I have to tell you this. The mindset of an employee is totally different from the mindset of an employer. The employer thinks always at variance with the employee most of the time. Now, I had a good training in accountancy profession, and I was a very good auditor. I was good at what I do. But it got to a time, like Mr. Aladinusi said, that I wasn't getting that new challenges again, being used to doing things over and over. So I got this inspiration that it's time for me to get out. And then that was after being the last 2 years as an audit partner in Howard Dafinone. Now, the first thing I thought of doing was going out on my own. But as opportunity will present itself, we had a client then, which I was the partner in charge of the client. The MD was British, and they wanted a CFO. Their CFO left. And so they wanted me to get a CFO for them. I tried, referred people, they didn't take. At the end of the day, the MD said, Shegun, you always write what we call management letter point, which is letter of weaknesses. Why not come and address this? And I thank God for ordering my steps to go in there and accept that offer. Why? Because in those 2.5 years that I worked with ACAT as the CFO, I learned what I did not learn for over 12 years being in the audit practice. Why? All through my years of working in Balogun Badija & Co., Howard Dafinone, I never knew how my salary was being paid, and the salary never failed for a month. And many of us employees are like that. I never knew how the pressure of being the one to source for the resources to pay employees. But when I got to ACAT as a CFO, that was a major problem. Every month, everybody is looking up to the CFO to pay. And I had to understand a lot. That was when I wrote the, all sorts of proposals to the bank, think of various ways of getting funding. Now let's go to starting. In the course of starting, I also realized that it's good to work with big firms, big organizations, but if you don't take the proper education, it can work against you when you start as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Now, this was my own experience. When I was at our Dafinone, we go out on audit, consulting, tax assignment without taking any fee to start. There was nothing like mobilization fee. We finish the assignment and then we get paid. Now, when I was starting, I started that way also. And then I realized that client 1, accounts receivable. Client 2, accounts receivable. Client 3, accounts receivable. And nobody is sending me salary at the end of the month, and I need to pay. So I had to go around people who have started small firms. That is where relationship comes in, and relationship brings mentoring. Yeah. And so in the course of speaking to them, I now realized, they told me, Shego, that's when you are in Dafinone. You are no longer in Dafinone. You can't do it this way. When you are starting on any assignment, you get your mobilization fee. You structure your payment terms. So that was how I started. 2 other things I would say helped me greatly, apart from the help of God. I got to read this book, 10 Real Life Questions That Every Entrepreneur Should Know, by Roberto Kiyosaki and Sharon Lecher. And then I also got
Sorry, let me interrupt. Did you just say something about reading?
Yes.
Okay, so that further emphasizes the need to read.
To read, yes.
And gain knowledge. Okay.
And then I got introduced to this website also, www.sba.gov.
Can you take that again?
www.sba.gov. Now
SBA.gov.
SBA, that's Small Business Administration in the US. For everyone that is going to small business, it's an advisory website that offers a lot of resources. It tells you the things I need to know, the things I need to prepare. So those were the things that helped me. The third thing I would say helped me in starting. When I was to start, because I was coming from an environment where we have offices and the rest, I learned what Mr. Ezegbo spoke about, that you can actually use relationship to partner with someone who already has an existing office, but they are not fully utilizing the resources in their office. So, because when I went around trying to find how to get an office, the rent figure they were giving me, the resources of the firm I was starting couldn't afford that. So what I did then was to look for people of like minds. I got a cousin who is also into that, and he gave me that opportunity. So that gave me a good leverage to start, and from then it's been getting better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I have with me Mr. Ogundeji, Dr. Ogundeji. There's a question here. There are 2 questions. I'll just merge them on FIRO. One is asking about if FIRO runs training programs on agribusiness. But I just want to add to that. One of your objectives at FIRO is to push the boundaries of innovation. And to what extent has FIRO been able to commercialize all of this research and development outputs? To what extent have you been able to translate R&D into commerce?
Of course, what we focus on at FIRO is how we can actually leverage on the available raw materials that we have, and we add value to them so that we can really move this country to that level of industrialization which we all are clamoring for. And for over 60 years now, FIRO has been in that business. In fact, when you look at our magazine, it says industrialization through research. And to date, Firo has virtually worked, Madam mentioned it, worked on all the raw materials that we have, except from, aside from the area of oil and gas. Our mandate doesn't cover that. But when it comes to agric, solid minerals and what have you, even forestry, we have done some value addition in that area. And also upgrading our own indigenous technologies. She told us about Gary. Gone were the days when people will grate Gary and you see their fingers, their palms, you know, all roughed and chopped off and what have you. Now there are equipment that can do that, and that is where the mechanization of most of these indigenous technologies come in. Now you have graters, you have presses, you have fryers, you have peelers, and so on. And to this end, we have really been able to impart our people quite a lot. Now, when you look at the area of technologies that we have, well over 300 that we have on the shelf. But when they're on the shelf, they are not doing anything. They must be translated, you know, to what people are using. That they must be adopted. And then it's being commercialized and people are using it and they're making money from it. And now where we come in, especially my own division, is in the commercialization of all these projects that we're talking about. And as I'm telling you, we have about 100 that are ready for commercialization now.
Wow.
And on a weekly basis, we transfer nothing less than 25 of these. We have a stand here, the investment clinic, we have a table. You can always visit, and you see the array of technologies that we are transferring on a weekly basis. Then, aside from this, of course, the focus now, the world over, is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship. And we also have looked at it that, okay, just transferring the technology and say, okay, come and we train you how to, is not actually enough. What about the business end? So we come up with what we call technopreneurship skill development. So that you come in, you are trained for, especially those who do not have the time within the week. We have designed one for weekends. We have the weekly ones, and we have also designed the one for weekends that will run for about 13 weekends. That's 3 months on Saturdays. And when we take you through all this entrepreneurial skill development, by the end of that training, you have the option of choosing any two of our technologies. So that as you are graduating from that particular course, you are also going away with 2 technologies that you can go out there, you know, and you invest in it and you make your money. So I hope I've been able to address what you asked.
Yes,
so
and I believe that also confirms that you have well-established training programs at Firo.
Yes, on weekly basis we have that, and like the weekly ones, like I said earlier on, we don't just take you through the process technology alone. We take you through the equipment identification and specification, the necessary quality control aspects of your products, because when you get out there, of course, we need to face the facts. NAFDAC is there, and they are meant to protect you and I, so that at the end of the day, you don't just come up with any kind of water. Today, you can see Nestle, what I'm, you know, I'll be,
I understand.
my mind will be very much at rest to take it because I know it's NAFDAC certified. So we'll take you through all these requirements. Then not just that alone, the business end of it, the marketing, the guide to setting up the business.
Packaging?
And, the packaging aspect, and also even the costing of the product.
Wow.
So that at the end of the day, you're not pricing yourself out of the market. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So we put all this in part of our training. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So many questions. Obviously, we cannot take all of these questions. I'll try to go round again and then we'll take the final word from each of our speakers. Mr. Nnamdi Ezebo, I earlier on mentioned that you may want to shed more light. I mean, let's face the facts. People believe that having gone to school, I see that you went to Yabatech and then LASU. So, having done all of that, you leave school and you subject yourself to 6 months of apprenticeship, not working. So you subjected yourself to that. What mentality propels one to do that? Are there things that are different now? Or is it still the same thing? Do we still expect that level of, can I put the word humility, to make you do that? Is it something that is still doable to people around here now, in this time and age? And what impact did that have on your business? Let me also add to the question. Someone here is asking, and I like this question, have there been critical moments that you almost gave up? Please take the two.
All right. Those are very smart questions. All right. Let me start with the one that has to do with apprenticeship. Like I said when I was making my introduction, you do not start a business that you don't have the knowledge about. You don't start a business that you don't have knowledge about. You are expected to start the business that you have sound knowledge about.
No matter your age, the number of degrees you've bagged.
Yes. And so people make this mistake. They start business or they go into business because they have money in their pockets. No, that is wrong. You start your business or you go into business because you have an idea of what you want to do for society. You have an idea of the kind of value you want to create. So I wanted to become a computer engineer. I had wanted to become a computer engineer. All right? At that time, computer engineering was in vogue. It was all about computer engineering, computer science, computer studies. People were doing different kind of courses. But in my own case, I think it was more like you want to become a computer engineer. So you need the training to achieve that. So there was need to acquire that expertise, that technical know-how. And there was no way I could get that apart from going to going to a computer outfit. And not just any computer outfit, a small computer outfit where they will have time to train me.
Train you.
All right? And so it was more of a volunteer, but the whole essence was to acquire that training. So I worked as an apprentice for my friend, who was my schoolmate, who was my classmate. So I worked under him for 6 months without pay.
Wow.
Now, the beauty of it is that I was even running errands for him.
Interesting.
All right? And then the funniest part of it is that I became very competent and almost as good as him within the shortest possible time.
Just because the big picture was in focus. You decided to overlook everything you had acquired before then to gain that knowledge to grow your business.
That's it. So I was dedicated and I was committed. It was not about money. It was about that knowledge. And so that was what launched me into who I am today.
Okay. The second bit about
all right.
Giving up.
You can't claim to be a businessman without running into troubled waters. All right? There are problems everywhere. But the point is, you try to reduce your exposure. All right? If you must take risk, try and make it very cheap so that if you fall, the cost will be very cheap. All right? So they call that calculated risk. But in business terms, it's assumed that you have to diversify your risk. So I actually had such problems, particularly the first 2 years. When I started business, it was like try and error. There was no business plan. All right? It was just like any other businessman. All right, and so that first 2 years was like the era of trial and error. So what I did that helped me was to invite a management consulting firm that came in to set up structures for me. And they said to me, you know what? You need an accountant, an accounts officer. You need a small warehouse. You need this, you need that. And so structure is very, very good. And it doesn't matter how much you have. It doesn't matter how small your business is. You can actually share these resources. For example, maybe in your industry or your kind of business, 3 or 4 people can actually come together and hire one accountant.
Yeah.
And so that accountant becomes a shared resources. So he works for you, for me, and for 2 other people. So that was what I did the first 3 years. And that actually helped me to organize my books, organize my system, and I was able to grow the business. So don't forget, it was just a mere engineer who became a businessman. So there were a lot of mistakes, especially the mistakes that had to do with relations. Right? I employed relations, family members, and you know what that means? They will mess up your business. They will mess up your business.
Let me quickly ask. Is there one single relation that didn't mess, that actually added value? Just so that, is it always given that when you bring in relations into your business, they would mess you up?
Well, I want to say what I understand, what I know, what I understood from the experiences
That
I
you
had.
have.
Mine could be very unique, but I'm saying from the perspective of a businessman in Nigeria. Relations comes with emotions. It is
Sentiments.
difficult
Yeah.
to get the best from relations.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Thank you. Mr. Aladenusi, okay, I like this question. Someone is asking, how can he be a certified ethical hacker? Is there any school offering this program? But in that same breath, I want you to also tell us, you are many things in one. I'm tempted to ask, do you have a life? How do you juggle all the balls? You have a ministry, you have I think about 8 professional certifications, you have a family, you're a professional. Please tell us. And then put it in perspective. So just for a few minutes, imagine that you're a woman. Is it also possible to be a woman and then still achieve that balance? So you can just take that question with the certified hacker question.
It's very easy to imagine I'm a woman because I have 3 girls and I have a wife, so I live with women all my life. So
Great.
And I think it's very possible. Sincerely, there is a lot of time.
Did you just hear him? Did he say there's a lot of time?
There is a lot of time.
Interesting.
When I leave this place today, yesterday I preached 3 messages. Today I'm in a conference. I'm leaving this place to go and preach 2 other messages. So I'm doing a lot of stuff. And I'm involved in ministry because that is the core. The Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom, and the rest shall be added unto you. So that's my number 1 core. And I think that should be for everybody, except if you've not read your Bible very well. It says, seek ye first. Put it before any other thing. So I'm involved in so many things, doing several things. And I think a woman can also do that. 2 things that have helped me. Number 1, don't try to schedule your to-do list, but prioritize or schedule your priorities. What people try to do is that they have a to-do list and they are trying to say, okay, which one should come first, which one should come second, which one should come third. My own is that, what is a priority? First of all, what jumps into the to-do list must not be a junk. And I'm sorry to say, I can't be exposed to doing many things that take people time. So I'd rather watch the news of the scores of the Arsenal match than sit for 90 minutes, for example.
Interesting.
I would rather watch 1 movie in 1 year than expose my life 3-4 hours If you ask people the number of time they spend in movies, football, Facebook, There's a lot of time. So I have time for my family, I have time for ministry, I have time for work, and the second aspect is, which what I said earlier on, I think the divine intelligence aspect is also key.
Take that again.
Divine intelligence.
Okay.
Many people are doing too many trial and error. Life is too short that you cannot spend your whole time experimenting. You can live by discernment and not experiment. So if I know the right thing to do and I hit it, I get faster results than someone that tried 10 things before getting the right thing. So it's a difference. So I think women too can work in that. It's a divine principle. So that's what I do, and I'm trying to get better every day. I'm not there. I still have a long way to go, but I'm trying to optimize.
Thank you.
And for the next question, certified ethical hacker. You want to hack. There are two things. You get the education and you get the opportunity to practice. So there is a course called the Certified Ethical Hacker course. And I think there are some, if you Google it, everything you can get it by Google. There are centers in Nigeria where you can learn the course. I think I know there's one New Horizon. I don't know the rest of them, but there are a number of them. But it goes beyond just that course. When you have done that, you need to probably have a lab environment where you can simulate. You can create a lab environment in one laptop. There's a way you can do it by virtualization and the rest of them. So create that environment and do a lot of practice and training and try to get into the game, get into the place where they are practicing such so that you can continue to improve yourself. Because you cannot say you want to be a certified ethical hacker and start hacking people all around. You are not a thief. So it's very important that you do it legitimately. And that's why it's good to get to, after you've gotten the training, try and look for a place where you can get the experience. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Pastor Abraham. Now, for small and medium businesses, there's a lot in terms of taxation, so many things that you have to contend with. You know, what's your advice for people who are setting up small businesses, just so that you don't even die before you've started? How do you manage double, triple taxation issues, so many dues and so many bills to pay, and then still break even at the end of the day, especially at the early stage of business?
Yeah, a very good question. When you are going into a business, at the incorporation stage, you need a lot of counseling, you need a lot of consulting support. You have a lot of, opportunities of the kind of business you can incorporate. We have situations where today the government have seen that the revenue from oil has been greatly affected adversely. So the next point is to look for revenue outside oil. And one of the major focus is on taxation. And when you look at taxation, the first point of call will be the corporate setup. Institutions that have the corporate identity. So be very, very careful before you register any business as a limited liability company. If you are starting a business, you need to talk to a lawyer, you need to talk to an accountant, because the exposure every limited liability company has got is massive. And you cannot, I give you an instance. If you have a limited liability company, you've got the corporate taxation, company income tax exposure, you've got the value added tax exposure, you've got the withholding tax exposure, you've got the payee exposure on your, that's a pay as you earn exposure on your staff. You've still got withholding tax will be in two ways now, at the federal and the state level. So you've got a lot. But if you decide to register just a business name, I give you my own example. I didn't also have this knowledge when I was registering Rich Consulting Limited. And the first time I got a letter from Lagos State Internal Revenue, it was a generic letter. And the letter said, BOJ, that's what we call BOJ, Best of Judgment Assessment. They got the name somewhere, and then they just ran some things and said, we have outstanding tax liabilities of 21 million naira. Now, that can give some people hypertension. But for us, that's what we do for clients. So we just smile about it. At the end of the day, that 21 million naira now has come down to less than 300,000. Are you getting it? And because we know what the law says, we have the facts, we've been sending letters back and forth until we got to 290-something thousand. So it's important you sit with your accountant and sit with your lawyer before you decide. Don't just say, I want to have a limited liability company.
Thank you. Our time is fast spent, but Mr. Ezebo, I saw you were nodding when he was talking about taxation. I kind of feel that you want to say one or two things about that. First-hand experience. Let's quickly hear from you.
Yes, I want to lend my voice to that. Taxation is not something you run away from, right? It's your legal obligation. But most times people see the taxman as
the enemy.
Yes. So like you said, you don't just register a limited company because there are a lot of compliance issues, just like a PLC, all right? A lot of compliance issues. So, but if you start as just a business name like enterprise, all right, you actually run away from that until when your company grew to a point where you feel, yes, we can now, become a limited liability company. So it makes a lot of sense for people to understand that you need a consultant. And like I said, I actually got a consultant after the first 2 years, and that actually helped me.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. So what we will do now is to quickly take a final word from each of our panelists because of our time. I want to also believe that you can engage them on other platforms. You can still keep your questions coming in. This is the first edition of Cabsa, but it is our hope and prayer that it would be an annual event. So we would put up a platform where inquiries can still come in, and then we can work out how we get feedback from our facilitators. We would also structure it in such a way that it evolves into a mentoring program. There's so many things that we're thinking of in terms of taking Cabsa to the next level. So please just bear with us because of our time. I'll take a final word. Mr. Aladenusi, what are you leaving us with this afternoon?
I would say one day we'll all leave this world. And at that time, what we have done here is only the things that has eternal significance that we count. God has given us various platforms, and those platforms are meant to help us to reach people. Even when we make the money, we do kingdom investment like you said earlier on. But first of all, that platform is a platform for you to serve and to reach people. So turn it into an advantage for yourself such that you don't only profit here, but you profit in the life to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aladenusi. I agree with what he has said. God first in everything. I also want to add to that if you are going to get ahead of the pack, if you are going to be a successful entrepreneur, understand the times and seasons. These days, people are not ready to go through tutelage. People just want to be what their CEO is like. There are times, there are seasons. If you step out before your time, you are going to find it that something is going to force you back. So what investment do you need to put into mentoring, to being mentored before the time you step out? Don't think you can escape it. Understand the time.
Thank you. Mr. Ezebu.
Thank you very much. My parting gift is the fact that we need to acknowledge God in everything that we do. And above that, we still need to acquire the right competence to create the kind of value that consumers want. You cannot create value if you do not understand the consumers. You must understand the consumers, understand their culture, understand their needs, so as to be able to produce products and services that meet their needs. It's only when you meet the needs of consumers, create value for them, that you can actually capture value for your company. Every company must make profits if you must continue to compete. So, make money, touch the kingdom business, and touch your society. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ogundeji.
Thank you very much. I just want to take it from what Mr. Namdi just said. He mentioned something, creating value. And I want to advise those of us who are interested in growing into agribusiness. It's not just about the production of the primary raw materials, but add value to it. And that actually is where the money is. And that is when we start talking about processing. And in this line as well, from Firo, I want to give us the message of our Director General, that to show her dedication and her passion, that our youths must be empowered, and that agribusiness is the word that can take us out of this present recession that we found ourselves in. She said I should tell you that on behalf of Mrs. Damilola Hassan, am I getting it right? Yeah. That 20 serious, put it in quotes, how she will be able to sift that out to get 20 serious, are they potential entrepreneurs? Will be trained free of charge on any choice of your technologies at Firo. Thank you very much. And before I go, please, I also want you to give you the link to our website if you are writing, so that you get, we couldn't actually give you the full details of what Firo stands for here, but you can go to the website. It's very interactive and very friendly. www.fiiro.gov.ng. Did you get that?
Trust me, just type Firo on Google. It will take you to that website.
That is it.
It's a very loaded website.
Google knows our site. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wow, wow. It's been an amazing day so far. And believe you me, the day is not over yet. You know that we still have the second session. We will quickly honor our guests by presenting their plaque of recognition to them. And we'll go on a break. The break was meant to be 1 o'clock to 1:30, but now it's about 1:30, so we'll take the break from now up until 2 o'clock. We have vendors out there. There are food vendors, drink vendors, so you can help yourself to lunch so that you can be refreshed for the afternoon session. The afternoon session is very, very critical. You don't want to miss out on how you can source funding for your business. There are also stands out there. We have an information desk for Firo. There's an information desk on slots also, so you can just go out there and take advantage of all the information you have available to us. Can we give our panelists a round of applause, appreciating them?